Losing myself in mark making and doodling is one of my favourite ways to quieten down my often busy and sometimes anxious brain. If you're looking for some relaxing, playful art to do to help you balance your well-being and also increase your art skills at the same time, then I've got an exercise for you today that I hope is going to help. Welcome Lifebook 2022 tasters. My name's Kim Dellow. I'm a self-taught mixed media artist and I love to create and I love to help you to create too. As part of the Lifebook 2022 year-long mixed media art workshop, we're really focusing on creating to help well-being. And that's why I wanted to share this art practice with you today, and it's one that I use a lot. So Tam and the team have given me some questions to answer that will help you to get to know me a little bit better as one of the teachers on Lifebook 2022. And I thought, what better opportunity to sort of answer those questions whilst we go through the exercise itself. Now, don't forget, you can grab my freebie, which is a book that's all designed to help you create. It's got loads of exercises in it to help you to explore your materials, the world around you, and just get arting. And you can get that by signing up to my newsletter. So join up by visiting the URL bit.ly/KimMail. See it just here. Follow the instructions and you'll be able to download your copy of that book. And also in my newsletter, I share about upcoming projects that I'm doing, things that will help you, tips and tricks about art and creating and all manner of things like that. So I hope you'll enjoy that and stick around for it too. Okay, let's get started on the exercise with a warm-up. So I'm a huge fan of arty warm-ups, and for those of you that know my work, then you'll have heard me talk about warming up before. Sometimes I just do the warm-ups and nothing else. So art warm-ups are just like warm-ups when you're exercising your body. They're there to get you ready and in the right frame of mind for art. And they're really great also if you're not sure what you want to focus on in a session. So they're just sort of great to get you started and inspiring you as you go along. We're going to stick to a single colour for this exercise, so grab all the materials that you have in one colour of your choice. It could be pens, paints, pencils, crayons, anything that you've got. It doesn't matter, just grab that colour. You'll also need some paper that you don't mind messing up, because we're just going to get messy here. And it doesn't have to be great paper at all. I've got a nice big piece of cartridge paper, but printer paper's fine, recycled paper, scrap paper, newspaper, anything that you've got to hand. And we're just going to start by making some marks. Any marks at all. Scribble, make patterns. Don't think about what you're doing or where you're placing it or why you're doing it. Just do it. This is your paper to mess up, have fun with, and just check out how your materials work. Go back to a time when you would do this without even thinking about it. Perhaps when you were a kid, you would just sit there scribbling, wouldn't you? Okay, I'm going to tackle my first question, and that is, how does creativity support your growth, health, and well-being? Well, I was thinking about this, and I think that creativity is just part of who I am. It actually took me a long time to work this out, and it's taking me even longer to work out how to express it in a way that's valuable to others. So I think I can say that creativity doesn't support my growth, health and well-being. It just is my growth, health and well-being, and I'm at happiest when I'm lost in the act of creating, and it can be anything. It can be creating visual art like this, or it could be creative thinking. I need to create in some way. So even doing exercises just like this one help me to stay happy and healthy. They also help me to grow as an artist. I mean, this just looks like scribbling and we're just playing around, but it actually goes a long way to helping me in different mindsets. For one thing, working like this, doing exercises like this has helped me to break that connection between the feeling that I have to have perfect, finished art and pieces all of the time, which I think was a great barrier, particularly when I started. If you have water reactive materials, add water. Don't worry about the paper buckling, it's fine. The only thing you need to be a little bit aware of is protecting your work surface in case it goes through. Otherwise, just throw whatever you've got on there. If you want to do another colour, then go ahead, but one colour per piece of paper for this. So the aim of this is to get you exploring your materials first off, just sort of seeing how they work, see how you can make marks with the tools that you've got and really play around with it, make lots of different marks with them, see if you can sort of just stretch how you make your marks with the tools that you've got. So taking all that knowledge from just that little bit of play, let's move on to part 2. So we're going to fill a page with doodles. Swap onto some thicker paper now, and I'm using some mixed media paper, so this is a heavyweight paper. It's around 250 GSM, something like that. You can also use cardstock, watercolour paper, or even the inside of a cereal box if you like. Ultimately, what we're going to do is cut this piece up into little giveaways like bookmarks and postcards, that kind of thing. But I don't want you to think about that just now as you're building up this page. That will come later. The aim now is to fill the page with these doodles and marks, and I'm going to actually fill in 2 pages. And the one on the right, I'm filling this page in a kind of loose placement where the marks can go anywhere. Piece on the left, I'm going to build that one up as if the marks are blooming out of one corner, spreading across the page. So just 2 very slightly different approaches to give you some ideas of how you might want to go about building yours and experiment and play with it. Do as many pieces as you feel like doing. Do keep sticking to one colour for this, just for this exercise. When you come on to sort of repeat this exercise and do it again, feel free to put in as many colours as you want, but for this we're just going to keep it really simple. Now I'm going to add in some white later on mine as well, but I am sticking with that black and white for this. Now change up the materials as you go. Let that exploration in the warm-ups, the exploration of your materials, your mark making, influence what you use now. These pages are a great place to try out new marks, new patterns, to find the marks and patterns that are really you. So don't feel that you have to copy mine. In fact, do the best to not copy mine and find your own doodles. It might take a few goes to find the marks. Finding your marks is also an ongoing process of trial and error. It's not like you do it once and that's it, you're there. Sometimes you just have to keep working at it. So this is just a great place to play around with it, to explore and use these pages to find what you like doing, how you like using your materials, what kind of marks you can get from them, building on what we did in the warm-ups. So just as we did in the warm-ups, but now it's just slightly more mindful. Here we are exploring with just a little bit more care. You can keep on scribbling, keep on playing, but as you work through, look for the balance in what you're doing as well. Like if you put a group of lines in one corner, would adding a similar group of lines in the opposite corner look good to you? Or do you need something that looks completely different? Play with your tones as well. So there's very much a careful path here between keeping free with your mark making so that you're not overthinking it, but also being able to build up an overall pattern that works for you. And don't worry if it looks messy and chaotic to you at times, this is just all part of the process. Have fun with it and don't be afraid to experiment. So question number 2, what is important to you as an artist? Well, I think that following my own path is very important to me, and not feeling that I have to fit in with what is seen as good art or pretty art is really hard because we have algorithms that decide what gets shown, and something that isn't popular or doesn't appeal to an audience fast enough might not reach the audience it needs to actually reach. So there's a balance to be struck too, and we as artists don't work in a vacuum, so we are all influenced by the world around us. And if you're selling your art or anything to do with creativity, there needs to also be an external value outside of yourself, so that others want to buy what you're selling. So providing value is also important to me. I hope I'm not getting too deep with these answers. I have a tendency to overthink everything. So if you haven't realised that yet, I warn you, that is kind of generally how I approach most things. Question number 3, as an artist, what is your biggest struggle and how do you deal with it? So, and I think creativity brings in quite a lot of struggles. At the moment for me personally, I think my biggest struggle is not knowing what art I should actually be doing, as I love so many things and so many types of creativity. So I know I want to do visual art, but what kind of visual art do I want to do? And then balancing the making of art and being creative in a way that is valuable to others, as I've sort of talked about, that also pays the bills. It's really, really hard trying to get this right. So I'm struggling with that whole making art, what art I should be making, and earning a living through my art. That's the reality. Ultimately, I want to be creative in a way that helps me and helps others to create as well. So you can see how this piece, these 2 pieces, are just growing bit by bit. Keep on filling your page or pages until you feel it's full. And when I say full, it doesn't have to mean that every inch is filled with marks, because the contrast of the colour with the white has its own beauty too, so use that as well. Changing up the materials you use as you work through the page gives you the opportunity to add different visual textures, and you can even use the paper itself to add texture too. So if you're working on a rough surface, for example, and you put pencil over the top, that's going to have a different texture than if you're working on a smooth piece of paper. There's things like when I use the paint, for example, I used it lightly in some places, then layered it on more thickly in others, so that's going to add its own texture. It also adds different tones to the mark making. Hopefully you were able to find a lot of these qualities through your warm-up session and then make good use of them when you started filling this page. answer question number 4, which is what specific skill, new or existing, would you like to develop more? I love drawing and it's something that I just love to keep doing and keep improving. I can get really lost in maybe just drawing a still life or something like that. There's just so many different facets to drawing and I like to play with it and open it up to what I like to think of as a mixed media drawing. So when I say drawing, rather than thinking pencil or pen on paper and drawing outlines, I kind of mean the whole sort of from drawing with paint to abstract drawing. There's just so many different approaches that are really fun to play with. And doodling has gone a long way to helping me to draw better. So when people ask me how to start drawing, I tend to point them towards these kind of exercises, exactly what we're doing here. It's like a really achievable goal. Everyone can make marks and it helps to increase your hand-eye coordination and it's really fun to do. Got these pages now, gonna let them dry, and whilst I'm doing that, I'm gonna move on to part 3 where we're gonna make some templates. Now templates I want to make are, I want to make some postcards, some bookmarks, and maybe a little shaped card, which will be a nice little token of love to give to somebody. So to make my templates, I'm just going to use some scrap paper for this. If you want to make some more resilient templates, then use cardstock instead. If you've got a postcard to hand or something that's the same size of a postcard, grab that too. Same with a bookmark or any other shape you want to use. It's probably the simplest way to do it. Just draw around that shape on your piece of paper. If you prefer, you could get your ruler out and you could mark it up and measure it up. That's perfectly fine too. I'm actually going to use my postcard here to make my bookmark shape because I didn't have a bookmark to hand. And it's really simple to do. So I just draw around 3 of the sides from my postcard and then slip the postcard across, line it up with the top and bottom again. So it's probably just around about a couple of inches, a few centimetres away from the long side. Draw in another line to give me my 4 lines of my postcard. I'm also going to make a little heart shape. I thought that would be a nice little token. It's really simple to do. I'm just going to draw my heart shape very roughly, fold it in half, cut it out, and that gives me a symmetrical heart shape. If you want something that's asymmetric, then just hand draw your whole shape. Now when you come to cut out the template, remember that you're going to want both the negative and the positive shapes intact. So don't cut into the shape from the outside edge of your piece of paper. Using a craft knife is really simple if you've got one. If not, then fold your shapes in half and like I did with the heart, and use a pair of scissors. Now if you've been using materials that rub off easily like pastels and charcoal, then it might be a good time to fix your piece. And for these types of materials, I tend to use a spray fixative and spray them in a very well ventilated space or outside, and then just let that dry. So we've got our template, so it's time to find our happy doodle patterns on a page. Idea here is that we move the template across the surface of the doodle to find the composition of doodles that really sing to you. There's going to be many options, so just have some fun with it. Try not to overthink it again, but look for the areas that connect with you, that make you happy. So you're using your own tastes and what brings you happiness about composition to help you to determine which bits to turn into your little art notes. And let me just talk you through some of the things that I look out for that help me to decide which areas I want to look at. And hopefully that will give you an idea of what I mean and to help you to start recognizing what you like about your pieces and your composition. So just place your template on the piece and start moving it around. A few places will jump out as looking nice, and then you'll have others that won't. They won't catch your eye for some reason. For example, this placement does not work for me. For me, it has no balance, there's no harmony. It's like a heart of two different halves. There's no connection here within this heart shape. For me, anyway. We have dark lines loaded on the left-hand side, and then it's all lightness on the right, and that could work in some situations, but for me here, it just isn't working. It doesn't look complete. So I often look for repeated patterns in a piece to bring harmony, and we have a little of that here. Say, for example, in the small circles and the large circles, there's a repeated pattern there of similar marks, but the placement of them doesn't work for me, doesn't bring harmony. If I move the template just a little bit, the circle patterns now are working a lot better for me. They sit diagonally across from each other, which is a very dynamic placement, and I like that. I like how they are connected with the lines, and I like how the dark circles in the top right and the dark squares in the bottom left, how they work together at a very similar tone. So we're getting there, but I think I can do better. I like this placement. So for this placement, we've got lovely movement in the arc through the bottom right hand to the center of the heart on the left. I like the two close circle patterns and how the placement of them balance each other. And I also like how the pattern is reflected in that more open circle pattern. So in fact, we have 3 circle patterns working in this heart, and they are all placed nicely for each other. But look again, and we have a similar pattern going on with the line type marks too. Plus, I like the balance of the dark and the light areas in this piece. So you're very much looking for the things that catch your eye. Look for the rhythms, the balances, repeat patterns, tones that work for you, that make you happy. Try to figure them out. Try to work out what it is that catches your eye. And this will help you to build up your awareness of them and how they work for you. And you can take that knowledge forward in all your other artwork. Don't forget to also try this out on your warm-up pieces too for more practice, and you might discover some areas that are just as appealing to you. There are different ways to cut out your chosen shapes. I'm just going to replace the positive from my template, hold it carefully in place as I remove my template, then draw around the shape, cut it out with a craft knife. You could use scissors or even a trimmer. With the postcards and the bookmarks, I used a trimmer. Right, so I'm going to answer the last question that I have from Tam and the team whilst I cut out these art notes. And that question is, what do you want beginner artists who are struggling to know? I think probably that creativity can be frustrating, and that's absolutely totally normal. Keep on playing and experimenting and being free and happy with it, and stop constraining yourself into thinking that everything has to be perfect. So I'm just going to finish my art notes with a little bit of writing, put some postcardy bits on the postcard, and just start writing some notes on the back of my hearts. You could even sort of do that on your bookmarks as well. So I hope you have a lot of fun making them, and I can't wait to art with you again in Lifebook 2022 when it starts in January. So do join us, I hope you will. I'll catch you again soon. Bye!